I never thought I'd be the kind of woman sitting in a cramped apartment at 33, eating gas station sandwiches and wondering where everything went wrong. But there I was, Elizabeth Chen, certified public accountant turned convenience store clerk, watching my marriage crumble like the stale crackers I'd been living on for the past 6 months. Before we dive in, I want to hear from you. Drop your city in the comments, let's see how far this story travels. And if you've ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted completely, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to hear how this all ends, because trust me, you won't see this coming. It started with small things. Marcus, my husband of 7 years, coming home later and later from his consulting firm. The way his eyes wouldn't quite meet mine when I asked about his day. The nervous habit he developed of checking his phone every few minutes, tilting the screen away from me like I was a stranger trying to steal his secrets. We met when I was 25, fresh out of grad school with my CPA license and stars in my eyes. Marcus was 30 then, already running his own business consulting company. He had this confidence that made you believe anything was possible. When he talked about the future, he painted it in such vivid colors that you could almost see it hanging in the air between you. Our wedding was small but perfect. My parents flew in from San Francisco. His mom came up from Atlanta. We got married in a botanical garden in early May when everything was blooming. The photographer caught this one moment just after we'd said our vows where Marcus was looking at me like I'd hung the moon. That photo went up in our living room, 3 feet by 2 feet in a custom maple frame. It was the first thing you saw when you walked into our house. For years, everything was good. Not perfect, but good. Real. We worked hard, saved money, talked about having kids someday. I made partner track at my firm. Marcus's business was thriving. We took weekend trips to the mountains, hosted dinner parties, argued about stupid things like whether cilantro tastes like soap and whether we should get a dog. Then last March, everything changed. Marcus came home on a Wednesday evening, loosened his tie, and sat down at our kitchen table with his head in his hands. "We need to talk," he said, and my stomach dropped because nothing good ever follows those words. "The business is failing," he told me. His voice was flat, exhausted. "I've been trying to save it for months, but I can't. I lost the Morrison account. Then Piedmont backed out. I've been using our savings to keep the lights on, but it's gone, Liz. All of it." I remember the sound of the refrigerator humming in the silence that followed. The tick of the wall clock. My own heartbeat in my ears. "How much?" I asked. "Everything. The business savings, our emergency fund. I took out loans against the house. We're $60,000 in debt, and I can't make the payments anymore." I should have been angry. Maybe I was, underneath everything else. But mostly I just felt numb. We'd worked so hard. We'd been so careful. "Okay," I said, because what else could I say? "Okay, we'll figure it out." That night, lying in bed next to Marcus, listening to his breathing, I made a list in my head of everything we could do. I could pick up freelance accounting work. We could sell my car, downsize, cut every unnecessary expense. We were a team. We'd get through this together. I had no idea that Marcus had already decided I was dead weight. The next few months were a blur of humiliation and exhaustion. I took a second job at a 7-Eleven near our house, working the evening shift after my day job. Marcus said he was doing DoorDash deliveries and looking for consulting gigs, but I never saw any money coming from it. I started selling my clothes online, my jewelry, anything that might fetch a few dollars. The worst part wasn't the work. It was the way Marcus looked at me. There was this contempt in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Like every time he saw me was a reminder of his failure. He started criticizing everything. The way I dressed for my retail job. The fact that I bought a coffee on my way to work one morning, $3, "Elizabeth, we're drowning and you're buying coffee." I tried to talk to him about it. I'd come home after a 12-hour day, my feet aching, and try to have a conversation about where we were, what we were doing, how we were going to survive this as a partnership. He'd just stare at his phone or turn on the TV. "I'm tired," he'd say. "Can we not do this right now?" My best friend Rachel told me he was depressed. "Men handle financial stress differently," she said over coffee one Sunday. "He's probably ashamed. Just give him time." So I did. I gave him time and patience and every ounce of energy I had left after working 14-hour days. I stopped buying coffee. I stopped buying anything that wasn't absolutely necessary. I learned to make meals out of rice and beans and whatever vegetables were on sale. I lost 12 pounds without trying, and through it all, that wedding photo stayed on our wall. Sometimes I'd look at it and wonder where that version of us had gone. The people in that picture looked so happy, so sure of each other. I wanted to crawl into that frame and live there instead. It was late September when Marcus asked for the divorce. I'd just gotten home from my shift at the store. It was almost midnight. I was so tired I could barely think straight. Marcus was sitting in the living room with the lights off, just the glow from his phone illuminating his face. "We need to talk," he said again, and this time I knew what was coming before he said it. "I can't do this anymore, Liz." I stood there in the doorway, still in my work vest, smelling like hot dogs and industrial cleaner, and waited for him to finish destroying what was left of my life. The stress is killing me. Every day I wake up and feel like I'm suffocating. I look at you and I just feel guilty, ashamed, like I'm letting you down every second of every day. I need a fresh start. I need to not feel like this anymore. "So you want a divorce?" My voice sounded strange to my own ears, distant. "I think it's best for both of us. You deserve someone who can provide for you, who can give you the life you deserve. And I need to rebuild without feeling like I'm dragging you down with me. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't feel like you think it will. There's no dramatic moment where your heart breaks with an audible snap. It's quieter than that. It's just a slow, sinking realization that the person you trusted most in the world has decided you're not worth fighting for. Is there someone else?" I asked. "No. God, no. This is about me, Liz. About what I need to do to survive this." He handed me divorce papers 3 days later. He'd already filed, already talked to a lawyer. He wanted it uncontested, he said. Quick and clean. We didn't have any assets to divide anyway, right? Just debt. He'd take half. I'd take half. We'd both walk away and try to rebuild our lives separately. "No lawyers," he said. "We can't afford them. And there's nothing to fight over. Let's just sign the papers and move on." I should have questioned it. I should have wondered why he was in such a hurry. But I was so tired, so heartbroken, so completely hollowed out that I just nodded. "Okay," I said. "Okay." My mom called me every day for the next 2 weeks. She wanted me to come home to San Francisco, to leave Marcus in Tennessee behind and start over where I had family. But I couldn't. Not yet. I had to finish this first. I had to see it through to the end. Whatever that looked like. Rachel came over and helped me start packing. We boxed up my clothes, my books, the kitchen items I wanted to keep. Marcus had already found a new place, a studio apartment on the other side of town. He'd be out by the end of the month, he said. I could stay in the house until it's sold. Then we'd split whatever was left after the bank took what we owed. I was packing up the bedroom when I saw the wedding photo on the wall. That beautiful, terrible reminder of everything we'd been and lost. I couldn't leave it. I couldn't take it either. Just looking at it made my chest hurt. But finally, on a gray October morning, I decided I'd take it down. Pack it away somewhere maybe. Deal with it later when I could breathe without feeling like my lungs were full of broken glass. I climbed up on a chair and lifted the frame off its hooks. It was heavier than I remembered, that big maple frame. As I stepped down, my foot caught on the edge of the chair. I stumbled, and the frame slipped from my hands. It hit the hardwood floor with a crack that made me wince. The glass didn't shatter, but I heard something give way. When I picked it up, the backing had come loose, separated from the frame. That's when I saw it, taped to the back of our wedding photo, carefully secured with clear packing tape, was a lottery ticket. I pulled it free with shaking hands, my heart suddenly pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The ticket was from the Tennessee Lottery, Powerball. The purchase date was September 15th. 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. 1 week before Marcus asked for a divorce. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold my phone steady as I pulled up the Tennessee Lottery website. I typed in the numbers from the ticket, my vision blurring because I couldn't quite catch my breath. The screen loaded. Congratulations. Winning ticket. I had to read it 3 times before my brain could process what I was seeing. The numbers matched. All of them. The date, the drawing number, everything. $5 million. Marcus had won $5 million 3 weeks ago, and a week later, he filed for divorce. I stood there in our bedroom, the bedroom we'd shared for 7 years. The bedroom where we talked about baby names and retirement plans and growing old together, holding a lottery ticket worth $5 million that my husband had hidden behind our wedding photo. Behind our wedding photo. The cruelty of it hit me like a physical blow. He'd taped it there, behind the image of us at our happiest, and then looked me in the eye for 3 weeks while I worked myself to exhaustion, while I sold my grandmother's necklace to pay the electric bill, while I ate 1 meal a day so we could afford his car insurance. He wasn't broke. He had never planned to split anything with me. He'd hidden this ticket, orchestrated a quick divorce, and planned to cash it the moment our marriage was legally over. I thought about all the times he'd berated me for spending money, the contempt in his eyes when he looked at me, the way he'd rushed the divorce, insisted on no lawyers, no fuss, just sign and walk away. He'd played me perfectly. I sat down on the floor, still holding the ticket, and I didn't cry. I'd cried enough over Marcus Chan. Instead, I felt something cold and clear settle in my chest, something that felt like clarity, like purpose. I picked up my phone and called the one person I knew could help me, Rachel. I said when she answered, "I need a lawyer, the best divorce lawyer you know, and I need them today. Are you absolutely sure about what you found?" Jennifer Martinez asked me 3 hours later in her downtown office. She was in her mid-40s, with steel gray hair and the kind of sharp eyes that didn't miss anything. Rachel had called in a favor to get me this emergency consultation. I slid the lottery ticket across her desk. "I'm sure." Jennifer examined it, then looked at me. "Did you check the numbers?" $5 million. He bought it September 15th, filed for divorce September 22nd. We're supposed to sign the final papers next week, and he told you he was broke, that there were no assets. He told me we were $60,000 in debt, that he'd lost everything trying to save his business. Jennifer leaned back in her chair, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Elizabeth, I'm going to ask you a very important question, and I need you to answer honestly. Did you take anything else from the house? Make copies of financial documents, check his accounts, anything like that?" "No, just the ticket. I took a photo of it with my phone though, in case something happened to the original." "Smart. Okay. Here's what's going to happen. In Tennessee, the lottery ticket is considered marital property because it was purchased during your marriage. But here's the beautiful part: your husband committed fraud. He deliberately concealed an asset during divorce proceedings. That's illegal, and courts take it very seriously." "What does that mean?" "It means that instead of splitting the winnings 50-50, the judge can award you 100% as a penalty for his fraud, or at minimum, the substantial majority. Judges really don't like it when people try to cheat the system." I felt dizzy. 100%? It's not guaranteed, but I've handled cases like this before. The fact that he hid it behind your wedding photo, that's going to look particularly bad for him. It shows premeditation, planning. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. He won that money and immediately started plotting how to keep it all for himself. What do I do? Jennifer's smile widened. You do exactly what he wants. You act like you're ready to sign the papers. But here's the catch: we're going to request a formal mediation session before signing. It's a completely reasonable request. Couples do it all the time when they want to ensure everything is fair and legal. He won't be able to refuse without looking suspicious. And then we spring the trap. In mediation, with a court-appointed mediator present, we'll ask him directly about any undisclosed assets. When he lies, and he will lie, we produce a ticket. At that point, we file a motion with the court to stop the divorce and launch a full investigation into his finances. I thought about Marcus sitting in a mediation room, confident and smug, thinking he'd won, thinking he'd gotten away with it, and then watching that confidence crumble when I pulled out the ticket. "Let's do it," I said. The next week was the hardest of my life. I had to act normal around Marcus, had to pretend I didn't know what he'd done. He was staying with a friend, only coming by the house to pick up more of his things. But every time I saw him, I wanted to scream. Instead, I smiled. I was cordial. I told him I'd been thinking about what he said, and he was right, we both deserved a fresh start. I want to do the mediation, I said casually one evening when he came by for a box of books. Before we sign, just to make sure everything is fair and we're not missing anything. Rachel said it's what her sister did when she got divorced, and it helped them both feel better about the whole thing. I saw the flicker of panic in his eyes, quickly covered. We don't need mediation, Liz. There's nothing to mediate. We're broke, remember? I know. But it would make me feel better. Like we did this the right way. Please, Marcus. It's the last thing I'll ask you for. He couldn't say no, not without raising red flags. So he agreed, reluctantly, and we scheduled it for the following Tuesday. I barely slept the night before. I kept thinking about everything that had led to this moment. 7 years of marriage. 7 years of building a life together. And it all came down to one lottery ticket and one man's greed. The morning of the mediation, I woke up at 4 a.m., my heart racing. I'd been having nightmares all week, variations of the same scene where I walked into the mediation room and the lottery ticket had vanished from my purse, disappeared like it had never existed at all. In the dreams, Marcus would laugh at me while I desperately tried to explain what I'd found, and nobody would believe me. I got up and checked my purse for the 100th time. The ticket was there, sealed in a plastic document protector, along with 3 photocopies and the printouts from the lottery website. Jennifer had the originals of everything locked in her office safe. We'd documented everything so thoroughly that there was no way Marcus could claim I'd fabricated it. But still, my hands shook as I made coffee. Rachel had offered to come with me, to sit in the waiting room for moral support, but I'd said no. This was something I needed to do alone. This was my fight. I chose my clothes carefully that morning. Not the worn jeans and sweaters I'd been living in for months, but the one good suit I hadn't sold, a charcoal gray pantsuit that used to fit perfectly but now hung loose on my frame. I'd lost so much weight that I had to wear a belt to keep the pants up. Looking at myself in the mirror, I barely recognized the woman staring back. My cheekbones were sharp, my eyes shadowed. I looked like someone who'd been through a war. I guess I had been. The mediation office was in a bland building downtown, all beige walls and uncomfortable chairs. I arrived 20 minutes early, my stomach in knots. Jennifer met me in the lobby, immaculate in a black suit, carrying her leather briefcase like a weapon. "How are you holding up?" she asked, studying my face. "I'm terrified," I admitted. "What if something goes wrong?" "What if nothing is going wrong?" Jennifer said firmly. "We have him. All we have to do is stay calm and let him hang himself." "Can you do that?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. Marcus arrived exactly on time. Through the glass doors, I watched him get out of his car I'd helped him pick out for years ago. He was wearing the navy suit I'd bought him for his birthday 2 years ago. I'd saved for 3 months to afford it, wanted him to feel confident and successful. The memory felt like something from another lifetime. He walked in and saw me. For just a second, something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe, or fear. Then he smiled. That easy, charming smile that had made me fall in love with him once upon a time. "Hey, Liz." "Jennifer." He nodded at my lawyer like this was a normal business meeting. Like he was here to negotiate a contract and not the dissolution of 7 years of marriage. I couldn't speak. If I opened my mouth, I was afraid I'd scream at him. So I just nodded. The mediator, Patricia Owens, came out to get us. She was probably 60, with silver hair in a neat bun and reading glasses on a chain. She had kind eyes, the sort of eyes that had probably seen every variation of human heartbreak that could play out in a mediation room. "Thank you all for coming," she said as we settled into the conference room. It was small and windowless, with a fake plant in the corner and a box of tissues on the credenza. The purpose of today's session is to ensure that both parties are entering into this divorce agreement with full disclosure and mutual understanding. We'll review the asset and debt division, confirm that everything has been disclosed, and address any final concerns before you sign the papers. Marcus sat across from me, and I forced myself to look at him. Really look at him. I wanted to memorize this moment. I wanted to remember exactly what he looked like right before his whole world came crashing down. He caught me staring and gave me a small, sad smile. playing the part of the regretful husband to perfection. I kept my face neutral, my hands folded in my lap. Jennifer had coached me through this. Stay calm. Don't react. Don't give anything away. Let him dig his own grave, and then we'll bury him in it. Patricia opened a manila folder and began reviewing the papers. Let's start with assets. According to the filed documents, you have no significant marital assets. Is that correct? That's correct, Marcus said. His voice was steady, confident even. We sold most of what we had to pay down debt. I dug my fingernails into my palms under the table, and the current debt stands at approximately $60,000. To be split equally between both parties? Yes, Marcus said. Lies. All lies. But I stayed silent. Patricia continued through the list. Marcus would keep his car. I'd keep mine. We'd sell the house and split whatever was left after paying off the mortgage, which would be almost nothing, according to Marcus's calculations. Mrs. Chen, Patricia said, turning to me. Do you agree with this division? Every fiber of my being wanted to scream no, to flip the table and shout the truth. But Jennifer had been clear. Wait for the right moment. I have some questions, I said quietly. Of course. I just want to make sure we're being completely honest with each other. That there's nothing being hidden. Marcus's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. We've disclosed everything, Liz. You know that, Mr. Chen, Patricia said, looking at him over her reading glasses. Do you swear that you have disclosed all assets, income, and financial resources in these proceedings? I watched him. Really watched him. The way his throat worked as he swallowed. The way his fingers drummed once, twice on the table before he caught himself and stopped. Yes, Marcus said without hesitation. Everything's there. We don't have anything. And you've disclosed any winnings, inheritances, or other monetary gains acquired during the marriage? Another swallow. Yes, there's nothing. Jennifer leaned forward, and I could feel the air in the room change. This was it, Mr. Chen, she said, her voice pleasant but with steel underneath. I'd like to give you one more opportunity to revise that statement. Have you acquired any lottery winnings during your marriage to my client? The color drained from Marcus's face like someone had pulled a plug. I watched it happen in real time, the confident mask cracking, fear bleeding through. He looked at me, then back at Jennifer, then at Patricia. I don't know what you're talking about, he said, but his voice had gone thin. No lottery tickets purchased in September. No Powerball winnings. No, I haven't won anything. But his hands were shaking now. He clasped them together to hide it. Jennifer opened her briefcase with deliberate slowness. The sound of the latches clicking open was loud in the silent room. She pulled out a folder and laid it on the table. This is a lottery ticket purchased on September 15th of this year, she said, sliding photocopies across the table to Patricia and to Marcus. It won $5 million in the Powerball drawing that evening. My client found it hidden behind your wedding photograph when she was packing to move out. She placed another document on the table. This is a printout from the Tennessee Lottery website confirming the win. Date, time, numbers all matching, and then another. This is a photograph of the ticket inside you, showing exactly where it was found taped to the back of the frame. Marcus stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. His mouth opened, closed. No sound came out. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. Could hear Marcus's rapid, shallow breathing. Would you like to explain? Jennifer continued. Why you didn't disclose this asset? Patricia's expression had transformed from pleasant to granite. Mr. Chen? That's not. I didn't. He looked at me, and I saw real fear in his eyes now. Raw, animal panic. Liz, where did you get that? From the back of our wedding photo, I said. My voice came out steadier than I expected. The one in our living room. You taped it there, 3 weeks before you filed for divorce. You went through my things, and that's when something in me snapped. 7 years of being the understanding wife, of swallowing my hurt, of making excuses for him. It all came pouring out. Your things? I leaned forward, and I couldn't keep the anger out of my voice anymore. It was taped to the back of our wedding photo. In our house. Bought during our marriage. With our money. We don't have money, stop lying. The words came out louder than I intended. Just stop, please. I'm so tired of the lies. Jennifer put a hand on my arm, gentle but firm. I took a breath and sat back. Mr. Chen, Jennifer said, her voice cool and professional again. Did you or did you not purchase this lottery ticket during your marriage to my client? Silence. Marcus looked like a cornered animal, his eyes darting around the room as if looking for an escape route. There wasn't one. I'll take that as a yes, Jennifer said. And did you or did you not deliberately conceal this winning ticket from the court and from your wife during these divorce proceedings? I can explain yes or no, Mr. Chen. He closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something had changed in his face. The mask was gone. What was left looked exhausted and mean. Yes, he said. But you don't understand. I understand perfectly, I said, and my voice was shaking now. You won $5 million. And instead of being honest about it, instead of just telling me you wanted a divorce and splitting it fairly, you decided to make me suffer first. It wasn't like that. You told me we were broke. I was standing now, though I didn't remember getting to my feet. You told me we were $60,000 in debt. You watched me work 2 jobs, Marcus. You watched me sell my grandmother's necklace, the one thing I had left of her, to pay the electric bill. You criticized me for buying a $3 coffee while you had a $5 million lottery ticket hidden in our house. Liz, I ate ramen for dinner every night for 3 months. I wore my shoes until they had holes in them. I worked until I was so exhausted I could barely stand. And you looked me in the eye and told me it was all my fault, that I was spending too much, that I wasn't doing enough to help us. Tears were streaming down my face, but I didn't care anymore. Let him see what he'd done. Let them all see. I loved you, I said, and my voice broke through everything. I loved you, even when you were cruel to me, even when you made me feel like I was worthless. I still loved you, and I was trying so hard to hold us together. And all that time, you were planning to take everything and leave me with nothing. Patricia had tears in her eyes, too. Jennifer's face was impassive, but I saw her jaw tighten. Marcus wouldn't look at me. He stared at the table, his hands clenched into fists. Why? I asked. Just tell me why. If you wanted a divorce, we could have had a divorce. But why did you have to destroy me first? He didn't answer, couldn't answer, or wouldn't. Jennifer stood. Patricia, thank you for your time. I think we're done here. We'll be filing a motion with the court immediately. Wait, Marcus said, suddenly desperate. He stood too, reaching across the table toward me. Liz, please, don't do this. We can work this out. We can split it. 50-50. Isn't that fair? I looked at his outstretched hand, the hand I'd held through 7 years of marriage, through good times and bad, through sickness and health, and I felt nothing but a vast, empty coldness. Fair? I repeated the word slowly. You want to talk about fair now? I made a mistake. I panicked when I won. I didn't know what to do. You knew exactly what to do, I said. You planned it. You hid the ticket 3 weeks before you filed for divorce. You constructed an entire lie about being broke. You gaslit me into believing I was the problem. That wasn't a mistake, Marcus. That was a choice. You chose to do this to me. I'm sorry, no. You're not. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. Jennifer was gathering her papers. We're leaving now, Mr. Chen. I strongly suggest you get yourself a very good lawyer. What you've done here is fraud. Criminal fraud. And I intend to make sure you pay for every single second of what you put my client through. We walked toward the door, and Marcus called out behind us. You're really going to do this? You're going to destroy me over this? I turned back to look at him one last time. You destroyed yourself, I said. I'm just making sure everyone knows it. The next 2 weeks were a blur. Jennifer filed the motion. The court granted an emergency hearing. Marcus hired a lawyer, some expensive guy from a big firm downtown, who immediately went on the offensive, trying to paint me as vindictive and money-hungry. Mrs. Chen stole the lottery ticket from her husband's personal belongings, his lawyer argued in the preliminary hearing. This is theft, Your Honor, not a marital asset. Judge Sarah Brennan looked up from the documents she was reviewing. She was a black woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and a reputation for taking no nonsense from anyone. Counselor, she said dryly, Are you seriously arguing that a lottery ticket purchased with marital funds during the marriage, hidden in the marital home, is somehow not a marital asset? My client won that ticket through chance, Your Honor. It was his lucky numbers, his individual property bought during the marriage, with marital funds, hidden during divorce proceedings. Motion denied. We'll proceed to the full hearing, and I'm ordering a complete financial disclosure from Mr. Chan. Bank statements, credit cards, business accounts, everything going back 2 years. If he's hidden this, I want to know what else he's hidden. Marcus's lawyer tried to object, but Judge Brennan silenced him with a look that could cut glass. And counselor, I suggest your client think very carefully about whether he wants to continue claiming poverty while we're investigating his finances. Perjury is a crime. That's when things started to unravel for Marcus, the forensic accountant. Jennifer hired a woman named Dr. Sarah Mitchell, who looked like a librarian, but thought like a bloodhound. Started digging through Marcus's financial records. And what she found made my blood run cold. Your husband has been planning this for at least 8 months, she told me in Jennifer's office, spreading printouts across the conference table. Look at this. In February, he opened a new bank account at a different bank. You weren't named on it. I stared at the statements. Deposits, transfers, withdrawals. He's been siphoning money out of your joint accounts in small amounts. 100 here, 200 there. Nothing big enough to flag your attention. And depositing it here. How much? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. As of last month, $43,000. The room spun. But he said we were in debt. He said he lied. Dr. Mitchell said gently. The $60,000 in debt he claimed? I can only find about $12,000 in actual outstanding debt. The rest either doesn't exist or he created it deliberately by taking out loans and hiding the money. Jennifer was pacing, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. What else? His business didn't fail, Dr. Mitchell continued. It's been operating at a profit all year. He closed it deliberately in September, right after winning the lottery. Transferred all the clients to a new LLC he set up under a friend's name. He's still getting the income. It's just going to an account you can't see. I couldn't breathe. Every word was another blow. Every revelation another layer of betrayal. There's more, Dr. Mitchell said, and her voice was apologetic now. I found evidence of regular payments to an Ashley Winters in Charlotte, North Carolina. Hotels, restaurants, gifts, going back 6 months. He said there wasn't anyone else, I whispered. I asked him directly, and he looked me in the eye and said no. Jennifer stopped pacing. We need to depose her. I want to know exactly what Marcus promised her, when their relationship started, and whether he told her about the lottery ticket. The deposition happened 2 weeks later. Ashley Winters turned out to be 27, a dental hygienist from Charlotte with long blonde hair and an Instagram full of selfies. She sat in the lawyer's conference room looking scared and defiant in equal measure. How long have you known Marcus Chan? Jennifer asked. About 8 months, Ashley said. Her voice was younger than I expected. She wouldn't look at me. And what is the nature of your relationship? We're together. He's my boyfriend. The words hit me like a physical blow, even though I'd known they were coming. Boyfriend, while he was still my husband. When did Marcus tell you he was married? Ashley shifted uncomfortably. Right away. But he said he was getting divorced. That his marriage was over and had been for a long time. Did he tell you about winning the lottery? Silence. Ashley looked at her hands. Miss Winters, you're under oath. Yes, she said quietly. He told me 2 weeks ago, after his wife found the ticket. So you didn't know before that? No, he said. She stopped, looking miserable. He said he was broke, that he was struggling. I felt bad for him. I even loaned him money a couple times. Jennifer and I exchanged glances. Even Ashley had been played. What did Marcus tell you about his plans after the divorce? He said we were going to move somewhere together. Maybe California. That we'd get a fresh start. On what money? If he was broke. Ashley's eyes filled with tears. I don't know. I didn't think about it. I loved him. Looking at her, I felt something unexpected. Pity. She wasn't much younger than me, but she seemed naive in a way I'd never been. Or maybe I had been once. Maybe we'd both been fools for the same man. Did he mention the lottery ticket when he told you about his plans? No, he just said things were going to get better soon. After the deposition, Jennifer and I sat in our office, going over everything. He was planning to take the money and start over with Ashley. I said, that was the end game. It looks that way. Though I have to say, based on her testimony, I don't think Ashley knew the full extent of his plans. He was lying to her too. Of course he was. That's what Marcus does. He lies. I felt hollowed out. How many times had I believed him when he said he was working late? How many times had he been with her instead? How many lies had I swallowed without question? Elizabeth, Jennifer said gently, I know this is hard, but we have him. Everything Dr. Mitchell found, everything Ashley testified to, it's all going to come out in court. The judge is going to see exactly who Marcus is and what he did. Will it be enough for you to get the full lottery winnings? I'm confident. For him to face criminal charges? That's up to the law, but I've already flagged the case. What he did hiding assets, committing fraud during divorce proceedings, those are serious crimes. The nights were the hardest. I'd moved into a small apartment on the other side of town, trying to put distance between myself and the house Marcus and I had shared. But distance didn't help. The betrayal followed me everywhere. I'd lie awake replaying moments from our marriage, trying to figure out when it had started going wrong. Had he ever really loved me? Or had I just been convenient until something better came along? Rachel came over most evenings, bringing takeout and staying to watch mindless TV with me. She didn't push me to talk when I didn't want to. She just sat with me in the grief. You know what makes me angriest? I said one night, picking at pad thai I couldn't quite eat. It's not even the money. It's that he made me believe I was the problem. That I wasn't enough. That if I just worked harder, sacrificed more, loved him better, things would be okay. He's a narcissist, Rachel said. Classic manipulation. He couldn't face his own failures, so he made them yours. 7 years, I whispered. 7 years of my life. 7 years you survived. 7 years that taught you how strong you are. Don't let him take that from you too. But some days, strength felt very far away. The court date arrived in January, 3 days after what would have been our 8th wedding anniversary. I'd been dreading it and needing it in equal measure. I wanted it to be over. I wanted to never see Marcus's face again. I sat in the courtroom in Rachel's borrowed suit. She was taller than me, but we'd made it work with safety pins and hope. Jennifer sat beside me, calm and collected as always. Across the aisle, Marcus sat with his expensive lawyer, refusing to look in my direction. Judge Brennan entered, and we all stood. She settled into her seat and reviewed the case file, her expression growing darker as she read. I've reviewed all the evidence, depositions, and financial records, she said finally. And I have to say, in my 20 years on the bench, I have seen a lot of dishonesty in divorce proceedings. People hide assets. They lie about income. They play games with property and valuables. She looked directly at Marcus, and I saw him flinch. But what you did, Mr. Chen, what you did to your wife is one of the most calculated and cruel acts of fraud I've encountered. Marcus's lawyer started to stand, but Judge Brennan held up a hand. Sit down, counselor. I'm not finished. She turned to a marked page in the file. Mr. Chen, in my 20 years on the bench, I have seen a lot of dishonesty in divorce proceedings. People hide assets. They lie about income. They play games with property and valuables. But what you did? She shook her head. What you did to your wife is one of the most calculated and cruel acts of fraud I've encountered. Marcus sat next to his lawyer, his face pale. You didn't just hide an asset. You constructed an elaborate deception designed to psychologically break down your spouse. You made her believe she was responsible for debt that didn't exist. You watched her work herself to exhaustion while you planned your exit strategy. You hid your lottery winnings behind your wedding photograph, a symbol of the vows you made to her, and then demanded a rushed divorce so you could cash it and leave her with nothing. Judge Brennan paused, letting her words sink in light of the evidence presented. And given the egregious nature of Mr. Chen's fraud, I am awarding 100% of the lottery winnings to Mrs. Chen. Additionally, Mr. Chen will be responsible for all legal fees incurred by both parties during this proceeding. and I am ordering him to pay Mrs. Chen's moving and relocation expenses in the amount of $10,000. I heard the words, but they didn't feel real. 100%. $5 million. Furthermore, the judge continued, I am referring this case to the district attorney's office for possible criminal fraud charges. What you did, Mr. Chen, may constitute more than just civil fraud. Marcus's lawyer started to object, but Judge Brennan silenced him with a look. We're adjourned. The gavel came down, and it was over. Jennifer hugged me in the hallway outside the courtroom. You did it, she said. It's done. I couldn't speak. I just nodded, tears streaming down my face for what felt like the 100th time in the past for months. Marcus tried to approach me as I was leaving, but Jennifer stepped between us. Don't, she said. Don't even try. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. Liz, I'm sorry. I know I screwed up, but please, the judge was right, I said, finding my voice. What you did was cruel. And you know what the worst part is? If you'd just been honest with me about the ticket, if you'd said, hey, I won the lottery and I want a divorce, we could have split it and both walked away with something. But you couldn't even give me that much respect. You had to make me suffer first. I was scared, no. You were greedy. There's a difference. I walked away from him for the last time. And this time, it felt like freedom. The money hit my account 2 weeks later, after taxes and legal fees. $3.2 million. More money than I'd ever imagined having. I didn't quit my job right away. I worked my 2 weeks' notice at the 7-Eleven because I'd promised my manager, and because those co-workers had been kind to me when I'd needed it most. On my last day, I left an anonymous $20,000 donation to be split among the night shift workers as bonuses. They'd earned it more than I had. I paid off my parents' mortgage. They'd remortgage their house to help me with legal fees and never told me until it was over. I set up college funds for my nieces. I donated $100,000 to a women's shelter in Nashville that helps women leaving abusive relationships. And then I did something for myself. I bought a small house in Tuscany. Not a mansion, just a stone cottage with a garden and a view of the hills. I'm writing this from the terrace, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink and gold. I'm learning Italian. I'm learning to paint. I'm learning to be alone without being lonely. Sometimes I think about Marcus. I heard through mutual friends that he moved to Charlotte, presumably to be with Ashley. I heard his business really did fail after the court case word got around about what he'd done, and clients didn't want to work with someone who'd defraud his own wife. I heard he's working a regular job now, trying to rebuild. I don't take any pleasure in his downfall, but I don't mourn it either. What he did to me, the manipulation, the lies, the calculated cruelty, it changed something fundamental in who I am. I'm more careful now, more guarded. I don't trust as easily as I once did, but I'm also stronger. I know what I'm capable of surviving. I know my own worth, and it has nothing to do with anyone else's valuation of me. The wedding photo is in storage somewhere back in Nashville. I couldn't bring myself to throw it away, but I couldn't keep looking at it either. Maybe someday I'll take it out and remember the good parts. The parts that were real before everything turned to lies. Or maybe I'll leave it boxed up forever. A relic of a life I used to live. Last week, I was at a cafe in Florence when a man at the next table struck up a conversation. He was American, visiting on business, charming in that easy way some people have. He asked if he could buy me a coffee. I said yes, just coffee. Nothing more. We talked about art and travel and the weather. Normal things. Surface things. When he asked for my number, I politely declined. Maybe I'll see you around, he said with a smile. Maybe. I agreed, knowing I wouldn't. I'm not ready for that yet. Maybe I won't be for a long time. Maybe I'll spend the rest of my life here in this cottage, painting bad watercolors and learning to make proper pasta from scratch, and maybe that's okay. Marcus wanted a clean slate. He wanted to erase me from his life like I was a mistake to be corrected. Instead, he gave me the gift of starting over. He taught me that I'm strong enough to stand alone, that I don't need anyone else to complete me or define my worth. He wanted to leave me with nothing. He left me with everything that matters. I'm Elizabeth Chen. I'm 33 years old. I survived betrayal, fraud, and the death of everything I thought I knew about love. I fought back, and I won. Not just the money. I won myself back, and that's worth more than any lottery ticket. If this story moved you, if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, if you've ever had to find the strength to stand up for yourself, hit that subscribe button. Share this video. Let me know in the comments what city you're from. I want to see how far this story travels across the world. And remember, you're stronger than you think you are. You're worth fighting for, even if you have to be the one doing the fighting. From Tuscany with love, this is Elizabeth, signing off.